Hello, we're back finally after 2 weeks. So this is Dr. Berg, and we're going to do a Q&A today. And any questions you have, please comment down below in the description if you're on YouTube or Facebook. Anything that I say is not meant to diagnose or replace your medical care. So just take things with a grain of salt and then do your research. All right, Steve, we're ready for the first
Absolutely.
deep dive.
Well, welcome back, Dr. Berg. I hope your trip was fruitful and so on, and everyone's wringing their hands to get a hold of Dr. Berg again. And one of the things they miss the most, I'm sure, is your wonderful questions. Why don't we kick it off with the first one this Friday? And there it is.
All right. So the first question is, what if someone feels weak on keto? They just started keto and they feel very weak. What are they missing?
All right, audience.
This is like a no-brainer. This is an important thing. And once you supply what's missing, boy, that weakness goes away within minutes.
Wow. Hopeful words. Okay, let's shoot over to our friends on social media, in this case, YouTube. Jay wants to know, what are your thoughts on using inversion tables?
I like them for the lower back, and especially if you have disc issues. But I will say this, when you go down backwards, upside down, boy, you have to do it gradually because all the blood rushes to your brain and you'll feel a tremendous amount of pressure in your brain. You get lightheaded. You could even pass out. So what I suggest is you adapt slowly because you have the adrenal glands that are supposed to be helping you balance this blood pressure out with the positional changes. So I remember when I did, I was like, wow, bring me back up because I'm going to pass out. So I would start like on your back and then slightly kind of angled for a while and then slowly kind of go upside down. But it's good. It's good for the back. So yeah, that's one way to do a little traction in your lower back.
Okay.
The other thing that I would recommend though, if you have back problems, is get one of those cushions, low back cushions, maybe even like a foam roller, and push that underneath the lower back because that is going to give you probably the most benefit to keep that curve in the low back if you have low back pain.
All right.
Especially in the car.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Ace from YouTube. Thank you, Dr. Berg, for your vast knowledge and positive impact on our lives. And thank you, Ace, for that comment. I know many of us feel it. I am markedly, now hold on, drum roll please, thinner. Not that that's the only objective here, but a lot thinner than I used to be before I met Dr. Berg. I could barely squeeze through the frame in his door when he first met me, and look at me go. So anyway, thank you for that, Doctor.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of you in the gym or something. I was like, wow, you really have come a long way. That's great. And yeah. I think even your feet pain that you had when you ran, I think that's gone as well.
Everything's gone. Plantar fasciitis, less weight, knees, back, have a ruptured L4, L5. No numbness. It's just wild.
Wow. That's great, Steve. That's awesome.
Yeah. And no dripping IVs or scalpels or any of that. So I like that.
That's even better.
Yeah. I like that. All right. Back to social media again. Ree from YouTube. I just finished a round of antibiotics. Now I am bloating every time I eat or drink anything. What can I do to fix this? She asks.
Well, anytime you take an antibiotic, it's very important to, at the same time, take a probiotic to handle this because you just killed off a lot of your bacteria, but not all of your bacteria. And a certain portion of those are probably more resistant to the antibiotic, and they can switch over if you piss them off to more pathogenic bacteria and then create more issues with digestion. So you want to replace it. You need to take a probiotic, a good one. And I'm not biased of my own probiotics, which that's a sarcasm, but I do have a liquid and a regular one that I would recommend. But you take the probiotic. I like to take them before I go to sleep. Start with a little bit and then maybe take 2 eventually, but 1 should be enough before bed. And you want to slowly start building up the friendly bacteria in your gut, because if you don't, you end up with this imbalance of fungus to bacteria, because when you take an antibiotic, you kill bacteria, not fungus or yeast. And so you allow the yeast to get more populated, like the candida is a type of yeast. And now you have this overgrowth of candida, which can create a white tongue and a lot of other issues, which I've done videos on. But yeah, the probiotics is what you need to reverse this.
Wonderful. That all sounds gross. So get on those, Dr. Berg's or otherwise. And in
Oh,
the
one last little quick thing about when you take an antibiotic, don't take the probiotic right at the same time. Like even if
interesting.
you're doing kefir or sauerkraut, stagger it so you're not taking it at the exact same time, because it's kind of like if you do take the probiotic with the antibiotic, they neutral each other out.
Interesting. Nobody wins that way. Okay, so the audience, many of them may know what a green room is. That is like at a news station, the little room you wait in where they put on some makeup before they call you on the air and get you ready. And we have a green room. And if you want to know the sort of arbitrary way I choose which guest comes on first, the first one is Jan, and she's wearing green. So I thought, why not put her up first? Jan, if you would unmute yourself, you are on with Dr. Berg. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Berg. My
Hi.
question is, what recommendation would you give to lower higher platelet count? Now, the condition is called essential thrombosis. We've searched videos, your videos. Do you have any recommendation, whole foods or supplements? So far, the only thing on the internet is hydroxyurea, baby aspirin, anything natural?
Yeah. I think one of the complications, if I'm not mistaken, is more of a tendency to clot, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have these platelets. So one of the things that a really good remedy is called nattokinase. Nattokinase. That comes from natto, which is fermented soybeans. And it's a Japanese, I think, food that you eat as a condiment. And nattokinase is a very powerful enzyme that can help dissolve plaquing in the arteries, but it also kind of keeps the blood on the thin side, so it counteracts that coagulation, especially if someone's at risk. So it's I like it. I think it's a great one. Garlic also thins the blood. Also the tocotrienols, which is a type of vitamin E, thins the blood. But nattokinase is it's like potent stuff. So you don't need much. But I think that's what I would use because it'll actually keep things from clotting with higher amounts of platelets. And fibrinogen is called, which is kind of a protein.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for that succinct question, and good luck with that. Get back with us, Jan, if you would, and let us know, your continued progress. Okay, and let's see. We're going to do two new things here. First one is answer the first question of the day, which simply asked, if someone feels weaker on keto, what in the heck's going on? What are they missing? 55% of our respondents say it's electrolytes, 20% say it's magnesium, 20% say it's potassium, and the remaining 5% hold out for sodium.
Okay, the answer is sodium, as in sea salt. Simple solution. When you do keto, the demand for sodium does go up because you're losing a lot of fluids, because you're losing this extra glycogen, which is the sugar that tends to hold the fluid. And if you don't add the salt back in, you're going to notice like, wow, I thought this keto is supposed to make me feel good, but you're feeling weaker. If you're on a high carb diet, you don't want to be consuming excess salt because you're going to retain it as fluid retention. As you see, a lot of diabetics have this, their legs are just swollen, pitting edema, their feet are puffy. The solution is to go on keto. And if you are a diabetic with the swelling, you can take the opposite mineral called potassium to push the fluid out too. That can help.
All right, very good. Hey, Doc, who's watching us this morning or listening to us? And here's some indication. A good morning to all of our viewers joining us from the UK, Canada, Mexico, Trinidad and Tobago, Poland, India, Japan, Australia, Norway, Colombia, Germany, Germany, New Zealand, Finland, Ukraine, Taiwan, Ethiopia, South Africa, Belgium, Malaysia, Jordan, Pakistan, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, the Netherlands, Algeria, Eritrea, Micronesia. Haven't ever heard from them, I don't think. Sweden, Nigeria, Hong Kong, Ghana, Thailand, Estonia, Peru, Portugal, France, Spain, Bulgaria, Jamaica, the Czech Republic, Scotland, from where my ancestry is, if anyone cares, Iran, Austria, Kurdistan, Romania, Somalia, the Virgin Islands, Dubai, Brunei, Turkey, Kashmir, Singapore, Chile, Malta, Kenya, Bahrain, Armenia, Israel, Ireland, Tanzania, Bermuda, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Cameroon, and drumroll all across these United States of America. What an audience there is indeed. And as we say, usually there's a few stragglers that say, hey, what about us? So those 3 or 4 people or countries will probably be forthcoming in a few minutes. So thanks so much for that. And audience, you 5%, you rascals, you got it right. So the other 95%, you have a chance to make up for lost time on the next question. And speaking of questions, why don't we just launch that now? And here it is, Doc.
Okay. Which type of exercise will help you lose your belly fat? Okay, basically which type will mostly help you lose the belly fat? Out of all the exercises, which is the one that you want to focus on more than others?
All right, very good. Here's another common problem around the world. Joan from Facebook, I've been using castor oil drops to remove earwax, but it only softens it. How can I best get it out of her ear, remove the wax?
We're dealing with an imbalance somewhere with the glands that produce this wax. And honestly, I would, instead of doing a remedy, I would go to the basic eating plan, the healthy version of the ketogenic diet, right on my website. You can download it and start that. And I think that will be the best option for something like that. I'm not against using Q-tips, but just don't obviously jam it into the inside of your ear. Just gently use it. But of course, realize that you have also friendly bacteria in there too. So this excess scrubbing and cleansing and sterilizing is not a good thing because it's going to end up red, raw, and irritated. So you have to be careful about what you put in the ear.
All right. Well, please be careful about that. Let's see. Sharon from Facebook, what could be causing my eyelids to be puffy when I wake up in the morning? I'm wondering if there's a little kitty around there somewhere.
Yeah, it can be an allergy for sure, but most of the time that I notice, you can really see insulin resistance, which is the person's eating too many carbs or sugars with the eyelids. I mean, I could just see it from across the room. It's like this swollen eyelid, either on the top or below, puffy. That is the kidney is kind of congested, and also it's just the fluid retention backing up. But that's carbs. So you get rid of the carbs, and that clears right up really nicely. In fact, another thing that will happen when you do higher carbs is if you look at the under edge of your eyelid and lift it up, and it's like on the reddish side, and it's irritated. Boy, that's blood sugar issues as well. That's too many carbs. I used to have that. It felt like sand underneath my eyelids, and that dries out the eye. So just another tip for those people who have problems with the eyelids.
Interesting. Okay, now I'm rooting for Veronica because she's working hard. She's from YouTube. I'm an ardent listener of yours, but I can't seem to get my blood pressure and blood sugars down. I take long walks regularly, and sometimes I'm on keto diet. I really don't know what to do at this point. Sometimes, she says.
You got two things with that. When the arteries become stiffened and not flexible, the blood pressure goes up. And so chances are you have insulin resistance because to do keto, it's not something that you can sort of do. It takes consistency to really make the change over a good amount of time, because you want to get your body in a state of ketosis for a period of 1 to 3 months to really see the change. people who sort of do keto or don't do it consistently through the week, they just don't see the benefit. And that is because of this one little piece of information. All it takes is a little bit of carbs to kind of knock you out of ketosis for a long period of time, like sometimes at 48 hours, especially if you're new at this and your body hasn't converted to keto. So it just takes a period of, 48 hours, 2 or even 3 days to get into keto. So, and here you are, have a piece of bread or a glass of wine, and then you wonder why you're just knocked out of ketosis, not for a minute, but for, some days. It's really, I know it's terrible, but that's important to know because let's say every third day you do carbs or a little carb, you're not going to see change. So it's kind of you have to be more consistent. I'm sorry.
Oh dear. Well, anyway, you opened up the opportunity for me. And again, I was bloated and unhealthy and so on. Is always on me about that.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so I'm so excited and proud to have met him. I mean, it's just changed my life. I'm 69 now, and I'm in better shape than when I was 35. And that is, I still got a way to go. I'm not, and just, I'm intermittent fasting's changed my life. I'm not a perfect keto guy, though. I'll admit that. But if you take some chunks of this as much as you can, it all adds up to a better quality of life. And I'm very grateful for that, Dr. Berg. And also grateful to gloat and have my 15 seconds of fame, which is now over. And it's time to get back to the show at hand. So, Miriam from YouTube, help! How can I lose my belly fat? I'm thin, except for my belly. Looks like an olive with a toothpick through it, I guess. What should I be doing?
One of the questions that we're going to be bringing up, I think, was it the last question, right? I think, well, let me answer that question after we see the response of this last question, right? Because I was talking about exercise.
Yeah, lose your belly fat. You're right. All right, well, you hang on there, Miriam, because you can both answer the question and, also find out your answer if you don't know the answers, which you obviously don't, or you wouldn't ask the question. Boy, that was dumb of me. Sashi from Facebook, should someone who takes immunosuppressants twice a day be doing intermittent fasting?
Yes, because that's going to strengthen your immune system. It's essential. The other thing you want to take is colostrum, because colostrum helps people that have compensation or immunosuppression. Their immune system has been suppressed because they're on medications, whether it's organ rejection medication or whatever. But yes, it's a really bad situation where little things can affect you. So I would be taking vitamin D. I would be doing low carb. I would be doing fasting, not just intermittent. I would do prolonged fasting too. And I think that will help you with that colostrum. You can get that. Try to find a colostrum that's either goat or sheep colostrum versus cow. I've just found people have less reactions with that and they do better. But start off with a very small bit and just add more over time, because we don't want that to create an immune reaction, especially if you're potentially allergic to casein, which is the milk protein.
Interesting. Okay, Alberto from YouTube, does eating animal protein increase our risk for cancer? He wants to know.
No, it doesn't. That's completely not been proven at all. In fact, it a lot depends on also the source of meat that you eat. Is it grass fed? I mean, like, what in meat causes cancer? I mean, I could imagine if you eat a highly processed meat and you're getting a lot of, you're eating, protein that is from an animal that's sick, that's going to lower your immune system. But meat by itself, I think I've heard some rumors or have seen something that, oh yeah, meat has been now found to be our carcinogenic substance. Well, I love to read the research on that. Like, what type of meat did they use? Was it just meat? How did they isolate that being a factor? Is this an observational study, which it probably is? You can't determine that. Oh, it's highly associative. Well, you still can't determine it. What if it's did you rule out smokers? Did you rule out drinking? Did you rule out all these other things? So no, I didn't drink that Kool-Aid. So I think that would be a no.
All right, very good. Well, I tell you what, next up we have Muhammad, and he's calling in or coming in from Canada. And Muhammad, you have is prepared with this one question that which he will belt out in 30 seconds and then be enriched by your counsel afterwards. Go ahead, Muhammad. You're on the air with Dr. Berg.
Hello, Dr. Berg.
Hello.
It's great to finally meet you. I've been a big fan and your ambassador since the start of 2019. I'll just quickly tell my progress. I did keto for 4 months when I started in March 2019 and lost 30 kgs. It was great. And then I went for vacations to Dubai, and I said, okay, now I know what to do, and maybe I'll just be on vacation, eat shawarma and pizzas and everything, and I'll go back and I'll start all over again. Because now I know it's easy peasy if you stick to keto and you can lose weight. It's been since then, like June 2019 and till date, I've been on keto since then, but it's a couple of weeks on keto and then a few days on Cheeto. And and it's been this, and the people who I used to preach and they used to follow me that, yeah, keto is good. Now they don't trust me. They say what you're doing with yourself is very dangerous. And I know it's dangerous, and you would say that stick on keto and be consistent. I know that. But I don't know what after 10 days or 15 days of following keto, there's like a weak moment that I feel down. And I now I realize that maybe sometimes I'm not regular with bone broth, sometimes I'm not regular with electrolytes. But it's that weak moment which makes me do, okay, there's KFC for the kids or there's shawarma, and I love shawarma. So I'm like, okay, let's have this. And then I'm out of keto for another 4 days, 5 days. So a couple of weeks of keto, then few days Cheeto, then keto, and it's been like 4 years. So now I've got an ultimatum from my best friend that you have until 31st December 2023. You do your thing, and after that, if it's not working, then it's not for you. So you stop doing keto. So
And then go back to Cheeto 100% of the time. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think we all have our weaknesses that kind of come up and throw us off. Couple ideas I have for you. I would kind of log this on a maybe a piece of paper so you can kind of see if there's a pattern of it. Sometimes if there's a pattern and you can predict this, and let's say I really could go for some Kentucky Fried Chicken right now. Then you can load yourself up with more vitamin B1. I think that would help a lot, or trace minerals. And then maybe, let's say, for example, you do have a cheat day. And at that point, I think you should make kind of like a personal policy with yourself. So you basically now, if I go off the program, now I have to fast for 48 hours. And then now you fast for 48 hours and you exercise at the same time to burn off that sugar. That's one idea. The other idea I had is to, in your house, create some very similar recipes like keto desserts or alternative type meals that resemble those cheat things. Like there's a great recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken that tastes almost identical, and have that in the house as your substitute. So you can get the pleasure of that, but without the actual bad stuff. The other thing too, I notice is that a lot of people, when they have a lot of extra time on their hands, so that's like really bad. Like if you at night especially have really not much to do and you have a lot of extra time, people will like, boy, they keep thinking about it and they go off the program. So if you just keep yourself really busy, that will help as well. So you don't think about it as much. Honestly, it took me a long time. I was like you at one time. It took me many years before I got really serious. I would do really well, and then I would go to the grocery store, buy a bunch of celery and vegetables, and then of course a big bag of Doritos. I had to have that, and that went on for a long time until I physically felt so bad. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. But I will say though too, don't beat yourself up too bad, because I do know that you build yourself up by saying no to it. But if you give into it, it becomes, and then that leads to more weakness. And then you might think, well, I just have weak will. That's not true. So I would just start fresh each time you do this. Keep going. And I'm going to say one more little thing and then I'll stop, because I had a friend, and I never did this, but he does this. It seems to work. He basically, he'll go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? And he'll order all this junk food. And he will actually, he has this is kind of gross, okay? He has a cup and he will chew it, enjoy it, but he won't swallow it, and he spits it out. And he does this with all this type of junk food. And he swears that it totally satisfies him and he doesn't have any problem from it. He never swallows it. And he's like full after doing this. So, you know what? If that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But just don't do it in public and mention my name at the same time.
Right. I had another quick question, if I may. So what if I do keto religiously for 6 to 8 months, 10 months, a year, and I achieve my ideal goal? I've also started exercising. And the previous time I told you I lost 30 kgs, that was purely with keto. No exercise at all, not even walking, not even walking religiously. Just general walk, 5 minutes to the office. That was normal. Not doing it as an exercise. So now I'm also going to the gym. So what if I do it for 6 months or an year and I achieve my ideal goal and I'm in the best shape of my life? And you would not like this, but if I decide to quit keto, I get this a lot, that no matter you lose 50 kgs by doing something extreme, like keto, I say it's healthy, but it's difficult to stay on it because of it's kind of antisocial at times. There's stuff when you're going out, you're traveling, you cannot get healthy food when you're traveling or on vacation. So that's an excuse, but that's how it is. So if I leave, they say you're going to put on all those weight back, no matter what you do. So is this true? You are going to get back the weight, even if you're having a balanced diet and doing exercise?
Right. It's kind of like, gosh, I've been off alcohol for 10 years. I should be able to go back on it and be fine. I don't know why this alcohol keeps kicking my butt. It's just not, we consider this a normal carbs, like carbs are normal, but it's really not, unfortunately. So here's what I would recommend. Get to your ideal goal. Now you built up a level of health that you didn't have before. You have this, you kind of build up this, this reserve of health that you can now afford to go off the program occasionally, as long as you get back on. Because of course, if you're going back to the same lifestyle, you're going to revert, because these foods do not promote health. And keto is low carb. And so you're burning fat and you're avoiding sugar, right? Keto is basically just preventing diseases. It doesn't necessarily contribute to your health. Well, I'm sorry, it doesn't create health, because what are you replacing it with? It's just like avoiding certain things. It's like, it doesn't really define like what actually are you eating. So it's really a combination of focusing on creating your health by eating nutrient dense foods, but by lowering the carbs, you're avoiding disease, insulin resistance, the fatty liver, being overweight, et cetera, diabetes. So same thing with alcohol. If you go back to alcohol, you will have a bad liver. I'm sorry. But so you're going to have to, you can go off, but you have to be able to afford that extra, have that extra health reserve to be able to afford to go off occasionally. All right.
All right. Well, anyway, Mohammed, thanks so much for that. Get back with us. And I will say that I've had the pleasure of being over at the Berg's house, and there is no reason to suffer while being on keto. Karen whips up the most fantastic, tasty, some desserts, just everything. I mean, I didn't recognize anything on the table that wasn't delicious. So if you spend some time with it, good grief, there's just no reason to suffer at all. I mean, it's easy to swing through McDonald's, but you don't have to go through that and still be satisfied. At least that's been my observation.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, yesterday I was driving down the street and I saw Popeye's chicken. Would I like to pull up and have some of that? I'm like, I know what I'd feel like after. I'd feel disgusting. So I'm like, I don't need to do that. At one point, I would have done it. But now I really know the difference. I see the difference because I've been off and on, off and on. So I just feel better. I prefer to feel better. I don't know. That's just me, but.
Yep. Well, it always pays off. Okay, Miriam, are you ready? Drum roll. Miriam had asked, how do I lose excess belly fat? And it happened to pertain to question number 2, which asks, which type of exercise will most help you lose belly fat? The audience came back. 70% of them is some form of high-intensity exercise. 10% say long walks, 5% say Pilates in particular, 5% say sit-ups, and 5% say lifting weights, resistance training.
Good answers. There's some new research that I stumbled on that's actually quite interesting. And the one paper was reviewing 52 different studies on this one topic. And this surprised me, but it makes a lot of sense. And they measured like higher intensity versus lower intensity walking. And walking, hands down, won to produce more benefit in your midsection. And I think there's a couple reasons why this is. First of all, I'm not talking about walking like 5 minutes a day. I'm talking about just through the day. If you calculate your steps and you can get up to 8,000 to 10,000 or more steps a day, which is, you know, a few hours, at least a few hours of steady walking. And then maybe also periodically add in maybe some stairs or hills, which actually don't even factor. I mean, they don't even factor that. I think that's actually a little bit better. Now, of course, I do both. The high intensity is good for muscle strength, testosterone, hormone growth, hormone anti-aging, and a little bit of weight loss. But primarily, the walking is going to be the best thing for the belly fat to lose that. You're going to burn off sugar. You're going to flush out cortisol and adrenaline. That's stress. It's a low stress activity. And it's a lot easier for people to face or do through the day as the walking. I mean, anyone can just walk unless they don't have a leg, but, or also, you know, just all sorts of things. Start walking your dog, get a friend, walk instead of driving, walk. So I live on a farm and we get massive amount of walking. And recently I did a stem cell, and I'll explain how I'll tell you the results in about a month, but I just had it done last Friday where they did actually my own fat cells. They had to take fat off my stomach, liposuction, and then spin it, take the stem cells out and re-inject it in me, the whole thing. So I didn't have enough fat. So I had to gain weight in my belly. I had to gain 5 pounds. That's not easy for me anyway. I'm sure other people say, no, it's easy for me, but I had to stop walking because I realized that was not, I would just burn off a lot of calories from walking so much. So I just stopped walking, and then that really actually increased it. And of course I had to eat more, and I ate some apples and potatoes and things like that. But boy, if I kept up that walking, that was a significant problem. So if we just reverse engineer that, walking, I think, is something that everyone can include in there. But if you can go on a walk 1 hour a day or even another hour, that would be even the best thing you can do.
Boy, that's fantastic.
With the reduction of the snacks, the fruit, and 2 meals a day, keep your carbs low, and you will lose the belly.
All right, very good. Let's go to our next question. Here it is, Doc.
Okay, what is the best food for the brain? And I'm not talking about a generalized food, like a very specific food. Out of all the foods out there, what would be the best food for your brain?
Interesting.
To improve, cognitive improvement, mood improvement, preventing stroke, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, like things like that.
Wow. Well, waiting with bated breath. Okay, listen to this, Doc. Lubos from YouTube. I need help. I get a pulsating sensation in my gut, throat, and back of my head every time I eat food. I'm in constant pain and have been diagnosed with candidus. Please help, she writes.
If you get this pulse and you hear your pulse in your body, that usually is a potassium deficiency. When that can come from consuming too many carbs too. So you need to get on a ketogenic diet. Now you mentioned candida. So you need to take a probiotic immediately and start doing intermittent fasting. I think that would help you. But don't neglect the intermittent fasting, because what you're describing is related to the digestive system. So we want to clear those pipes out and not eat so frequently. If you feel that so many people are like, just they eat constantly and they graze and they just, the pipe is filled and they don't have a chance to kind of clear out this digestive tube, which is well over 20 feet.
Wow. All right. Hope that helps. Okay. Look at Diva from Facebook. Thanks for the walking information. I'm at 3,200 steps a day already this morning. Go Diva. Keep it up.
You can make it. I'm very competitive, so I'd like to make it a game, and you just keep increasing it. And okay, today I'm going to do this. It's a great game. And it helps reduce stress. And when you're walking too, especially outside, not like indoors in a treadmill, if you can, to add the X factor, you don't want to be just looking down all the time. You want to be looking out. That's very beneficial for the parasympathetic nervous system. So look at trees, birds, people, things like that. That little thing is going to make a huge difference to what's called the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. But of course, watch where you're walking too, so you don't trip over anything.
Good advice. Okay, let's see. Well, here's interesting. Simran, I think, why don't you wait a month from YouTube? What are your thoughts about stem cell therapy to address certain diseases or conditions? Should we let him stand by?
Yeah, I'll just tell you generally, it's quite magical. These stem cells are magical stuff. I mean, just the research is, and I mean, they're putting like literally 35 new research papers out a day on this topic. Unfortunately, it probably will not become very popular in the medical community right now, because it's like it would literally take away a lot of the drug industry, and they're not going to do that. But I think from a grassroots campaign, if more and more people do it, unfortunately, it's very expensive. There's different types of stem cell. I think the best type of stem cell is the one where they take it out of your own fat. But some stem cells are they're undifferentiated, which means they're kind of like blank slates, and they go out and they find areas of inflammation and they start to infuse in that area and start to tell cells around it to do their job and heal, and they replace certain cells.
Wow.
It's just beyond a mystery. It's magical. And, I keep seeing these amazing results of stem cell, but I will do a video on this, but I want to give it a good month to kick in and do the job, because I'm just still recovering from this, because it was a liposuction, which was interesting. It feels like I just did 1,000 sit-ups.
Ooh, wow. Okay, folks, so I'd like everyone to help me. So we've got Lonnie and Manola left. We're not going to bring you up quite yet, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to ask you all to kind of belt it out quickly. And first, let's get our next question answered. And that was quiz question number 3. Then I'm going to throw up another one. And 80% say fatty fish or cod liver, 10% say eggs, 5% say walnuts, and 5% say mushrooms. Who's right, Doc?
Well, the majority is right. It's fatty fish, especially salmon, but there's also halibut, and there's also sardines. But the salmon is really at the top of the list too, because it also has this pigment, this pink pigment, which is called astaxanthins. And this pigment is neuroprotective. It's very, very important in the brain. And when you get farm-raised fish, not grass-fed fish, farm-raised fish, they have to put dye in there to make it pink, to make it look like it's pink salmon, or else it'd be gray. So you want to get the wild caught and have that at least once or twice a week. But it's good for the brain. It's keto. It does a lot. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay, very good. All right, here is our next to last question, Doc. And there you go.
All right, true or false? Hydroponic vegetables and soil-grown vegetables have roughly the same nutrition.
All right. And by the way, my producer said that some music was playing behind the last one. Forgive me. I must have clicked the wrong button, audience. Never let it happen again. So answer that question. Now, as promised, let's go to Manola from Albania. Let's see, get yourself unmuted, dear, and you're on with your one quick question, if you don't mind. Go.
Hello, Dr. Berg, and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in keto since a year and trying to have done OMED for a year. And I follow you regularly and your advices. And I've lost 75 pounds in this year. And all my health problems have been improved dramatically. But I still measure the blood sugar levels between 90 and 100. Every time of the day I measured it, it is never below 90. Even fasting blood sugar or before eating that one meal or 2 hours after the meal, it's between 90 and 100. And if this is the case of severe insulin resistance and gluconeogenesis is happening, how to make sure I protect my adrenals while trying to improve insulin resistance and not doing any harm, because I don't want to give up OMED. I've seen the healing power of fasting and I don't want to give up it.
Okay, that's a really good question. Just to clarify a couple things with anyone listening, OMAD, it means 1 meal a day. And also she lost 70 pounds. And the problem now is her blood sugars are just a little bit higher than she would like them, 90 to 100, because they should be below 80. And she also mentioned something called gluconeogenesis. That means the liver is making sugar, too much sugar. That's what happens when you have insulin resistance, is the liver will make just a little bit more sugar. What you have to realize, when we go 80 milligrams per deciliter, basically means 1 little teaspoon of sugar in all of your blood, like a gallon and a half of blood. So that's not that much. And you don't have to even eat sugar. Your body will make the sugar from other things to keep that sugar. When we get up to 90 and 100, we're only talking about maybe not even a teaspoon and a half. We're doing a teaspoon and maybe an eighth, maybe a fourth. So we're adding maybe just the smallest bit additional sugar, which is not very much. So what you're telling me is not very, very serious at all. Okay. It's not going to mess with your adrenals. It's not going to be an issue. It's so minor. I wouldn't even worry about it. But that being said, of course, walking around the block should burn that off. if you wanted to do that. And yes, your liver is just making a little bit more. So I would probably just focus a little bit more on the liver. Over time, that will come down. You must have had really bad insulin resistance for many years.
Yes.
And so that's just what you're dealing with, is you just have to give it more time. But there's things that you can do as well. You can take like milk thistle, stinging nettle root. You can berberine, just certain herbs for the liver to kind of speed things up a little bit. But don't be concerned. Out of all the problems you have, this is such a tiny problem, and it's like almost insignificant, just to let you know.
Yes. I mean, I want to protect adrenals from producing too much cortisol.
Oh, no, you don't have to worry about that. It might not even be your adrenals making that sugar. It could be another mechanism. It could be another mechanism. It's not overtaxing the adrenals too much at all. It's not. I wouldn't worry about that. And I know what you're saying is the cortisol is counteracting the blood sugar, but it's such a minor thing. It's not going to worry. I wouldn't worry about your adrenals right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Manolo. I appreciate your question.
You're
Get
welcome.
back with us. I hope that wraps it up for you. Let's get back to our next to last question, which asked, true, false, hydroponic vegetables and soil-grown vegetables have roughly the same nutrition, and not many people, oh, wow, yes. Question number 4, 95% of our respondents say it's false. Oh, I thought they said it's positive. 5% say it's true. I'm voting with a 95%.
Yeah. It's not the same, but what's interesting, if you look on some of the sites, especially the hydroponic sites, they'll say, no, it's the same roughly. In fact, hydroponic might have a little bit more nutrition. So I have a question. Are you telling me that you can grow a plant in water and 15 minerals and have the same nutrition that's in soil, which has not just 15 minerals, it has probably 94 minerals, it has billions of microbes, it has all sorts of structure for those microbes to live, home of those microbes to live, and the major nutrients for a plant is from eating microbes. The problem is the hydroponic, you just don't have the structure to hold the number of microbes that are needed. It's completely, and to me, it's very obvious, it's not the same, and you can't get the same nutrition. Yet there's very insufficient evidence to prove that, but just common sense will tell me. So I plan on doing research on the topic. I bought all sorts of hydroponic and aeroponic units. Didn't like it. I'm trying to find out how I can sell those units. If anyone wants to buy it, call me, because they just don't produce the same food as soil based. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you have the option to get soil based salad and vegetables from someone's garden or a farmer's market or growing it your own, you realize what you're getting. You are getting not just a superior product, but you're getting all the phytonutrients from help from the microbes. You're getting a better immune system in that plant. You're getting even a probiotic, because they're containing 1 cup of vegetables contains close to 100 million microbes. That's right.
Wow.
And so you're seeding the gut. Unfortunately, in the grocery store, we're getting a lot of stuff that's grown in water. So it's not the same, unfortunately. And we want to go just beyond organic, because they'll say, oh yeah, it's organic. Well, you can do hydroponic and still be organic because without pesticides. It's really like, is it soil grown? That's probably the most important thing for me, and especially healthy soils. If you want to get healthy, that food has to come from the soil, from the microbes, and then the animals have to eat something from the soil, not just eat just grains.
Well, that certainly makes sense. Let's see. Here's our final question for the day, Doc.
Okay, why do people suffer such horrific side effects from psychotropic drugs?
What are those?
That would be like drugs for schizophrenia, bipolar, ADHD, depression. Some of these drugs that increase like dopamine and serotonin.
Interesting. All right, audience, climb on it. And last but not least, we are going to go to Lonnie, who is from Oregon, and she's unmuting herself dutifully. And Lonnie, you're on with your one question for Dr. Berg. Go.
Hi, Dr. Berg. I am so honored to be able to speak with you today. I follow you religiously, and I just love every word out of your mouth. I really do.
Thank you.
My issue is related to blood pressure and insulin resistance. I've been chasing my insulin resistance now for probably about 8-9 months, and oh my gosh, it's been a real taxing process. But I've been approaching it from every organ I can think of. And from what I've heard from you, my issues are, I can't figure it out. I can't figure out what's up with my blood pressure. No matter what I do, I've been keto, I've done prolonged fasting, I do intermittent fasting, have been doing it for probably 3 or 4 months now, after a 7-day prolonged fast, which was fabulous. At your suggestion, followed everything that you suggested for and during that prolonged fast. But this blood pressure thing is just kicking my butt. I don't know what the heck to do.
How high is your blood pressure?
Sometimes it's 170 over 110.
And do you have you ever had a CAC test, a calcium coronary artery calcium calcification test?
I just got back from a cardio appointment yesterday with my doctor. She says everything is perfect. Everything.
Oh, good. Good.
So even my cholesterol's. I thought for a minute it was iodine related, so I upped my iodine intake because of the self-test that you can do where the iodine disappears. That disappeared pretty quick, so I figured, okay, I definitely am short on iodine. I do these. I'm so excited to hear you talk about stem cells because I've been doing this stem cell activation patch, which I can talk to you about later. I don't want to do a promo on it, but I love these things. But I don't know what else to think. The only thing I can think of to do is to just cut out everything and start over again. Just do a 2-week nothing, and then come back at it and introduce one thing at a time. But I just don't understand what to do about the blood pressure.
Did the blood pressure start after some event of some sort, or is this gradually over time?
You know, I think it's been an issue for several years. I had a horrific horse wreck about 10 years ago. I had an aneurysm rupture in my right frontal lobe, and I've had 22 surgeries since. I've been assaulted with all kinds of anesthesias and surgical procedures and numerous repairs of this, that, and another thing. But it's been a really rough ride this last 10 years. But I'm just grateful to be alive, actually.
Great. Okay, so this is what I'd recommend. I'm assuming that you took high doses of vitamin D3, and I'm assuming that you took high levels of potassium as electrolytes for a period of time.
High level as electrolytes as potassium.
Yeah, because potassium is one of the best things to soften the arteries and help lower blood pressure. And I would shoot. You took a potassium electrolyte powder. I would take definitely 4 or 5 scoops of that a day. That will give you 6,000 milligrams, and anything extra your body will get rid of, but that will definitely help because so many problems with blood pressure is related to potassium. Now, the other thing is when you get a surgery, your adrenal glands are always awake, and it's a major stress in adrenal cortisol. And many times when you get surgery, they have to give you an IV with extra potassium because the potassium drops with surgery. So the combination of all those surgeries probably really depleted you, but you can't really test potassium from blood because most of it is inside the cell, 99% of it, and you have to do an intracellular test. But just by taking potassium, if the blood pressure comes down, then you know. I would also look at some of my videos that I've done on how to deal with old injuries. Because there's a really great acupressure technique that I would recommend to apply because all injuries are cumulative, and that many surgeries could have really kind of keeps your body in a state of flight or fight. So your problem might not be insulin resistance as much as an adrenal / low potassium, sympathetic dominant. If you could find someone that has a a heart rate variability test to measure your autonomic nervous system, just to look at your sympathetic versus your parasympathetic. That would be a great way to assess that. I wish I still had mine in practice, because that was a great little unit. You can just measure and go, oh, no wonder you got your foot on the gas pedal, but there's no brake pads. So
That is totally me. That is totally me.
yeah. So B1, potassium, those are the two I would focus on. And then also watch my, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's called the stress webinar, where I walk people through the acupressure on the stress points of the body, especially the adrenal points. That tends to help as well.
By the way, Lonnie, we're just about out of time, but man, you have really been roughed up, and we'd sure love to hear back from you. And you know, you're working out awful hard at it. So I'm sorry we don't have more time today to deal with it, but we would really like to hear back from you and see what happens this year, because you're working so hard at your health, and we're all glad that you're alive. My God, an aneurysm is an awful
Thank
thing.
you.
So good, best of luck with that. And now we're going to, for your entertainment, Lonnie, answer the final question of the day, which asks, why do people suffer such horrific side effects from psychotropic drugs? And let me bring up Dr. Berg again. And 60% of our respondents say those drugs can damage the liver or kidneys. 30% say they can damage the mitochondria, and 10% say they can interrupt healthy cellular functions. Fancy answers.
Everyone is correct. But what I wanted to mention about this is that there's this whole idea that, oh, you have this condition and it's related to low dopamine, for example, right? So now what we have to do is we have to treat it with something to increase your dopamine. So there's definitely it's positively one thing we know for sure about dopamine. No one understands dopamine or even serotonin as far as to the degree of how it really works in the body. There's so many conflicting theories, and week by week, it's like they change. Oh, we found that doesn't work. It really does this. So they don't know. And then when you go into giving someone a drug to increase one neurotransmitter and not really taking consider, they all work together. Oh my goodness, you start creating problems with all your neurotransmitters, and the side effects from these drugs are horrific. I mean, for example, even the drugs for Parkinson's, when they try to elevate dopamine, 14% of the time the person becomes a gambler. They start developing addictions.
Wow.
Even sometimes when people take drugs for schizophrenia, they end up having Parkinsonian symptoms. So it's like really messed up. And so there's over 100,000 different research papers on this top, trying to find this magical cure for these illnesses by manipulating neurotransmitters without side effects. Well, guess what? That's never going to happen, because anytime you try to manipulate this one thing without looking at the whole body, without dealing with the diet, without looking at nutrition, you're just going to make the person worse, unfortunately. And I'm going to release a video on this topic, because if someone's considering it, they should really get all the information up front, especially the side effects, to see if it's the best option. On that note, really thank you so much for your attention this long. Stay tuned for some great videos coming up in the next week. Have a great weekend. See you, everyone.